Hey, good morning. You're probably going, where were they yesterday? Or you probably didn't even notice that we weren't here yesterday. Either way, it's a new day. We're talking about managing teams this week, and today we're going to talk about the challenges. All that and more on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, good morning, Tom. I'm out of practice. It's been since Friday. I totally missed it.
And it's actually been it's been since Thursday.
Oh,
we recorded
Friday. That's it. There you go. I'm out of practice.
Sorry about that, everyone. I had a presentation yesterday at 8 a.m. and just couldn't figure out how to make it work. I was a little stressed and it just didn't. So we unfortunately had to miss yesterday's episode.
We did not manage our team effectively, right?
I think more we didn't manage our time. I didn't manage my time. Well,
okay, I was going to say, my time was here. I was ready to roll.
I know. And I was thinking about it all weekend. And then I just didn't really have a lot of time all weekend to think, well, let's get together and record it. And so my apologies. That's all on me.
I think the world's still going to spin on its axis, as I told you yesterday. It's only 2 days we've missed in 2.5 years. That's a pretty good record.
And I think both of them were when I was away and couldn't quite figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I think that's right, Tom. Uh-oh. I see trouble coming. Ho!
Mr. Hansen, good morning.
Hi, Tom. How's the Ring of Renegades crew?
Ring of Renegades crew is doing great. Thanks so much. For those of you who don't know, John is one of our, I think, founding members. Early member of the Ring of Renegades.
Messing with me. Hey, ask him to celebrate. What's he celebrating today? That's what
John, okay. So when we start every show, hold on one second, John. Every show we start with our celebrations. What are you celebrating today, John?
The great person working in your office today?
No, I'm celebrating being short on employees and overwhelmed in the office and overwhelmed with all the tasks we have going because we have some people on vacation, which is why Bob's helping out in the office this week, and not letting it get to me in a negative way.
Awesome. That's a great celebration.
That is a great celebration.
When we can let go of those things and know that sometimes that just happens. And as Bob said earlier, just like us not doing the show yesterday, the world will keep spinning on its axis. So
that it will.
That's a great celebration. Thank you for sharing that.
Enjoy the show.
Will do.
Thanks, John.
All right, Bob, what are you celebrating?
I'm celebrating that yesterday I did a job that I am not, in my mind, very well equipped to do, which is to work in an office and answer phones and do very detailed oriented stuff that I just try to avoid. I'm a concept guy. And I spent the day letting go of all the issues that get in my head. And oddly enough, John's son, John, told me on Friday or Thursday of last week, he said, you really either like things or don't like things. And he's like, you don't know if you like something. So I really went into the day yesterday just like, hey, you know what? I've got a sense of wonder. And it was fun. It was actually fun to learn some new skills. It was fun to do some of the things I've dealt with them at a high level, but never actually got my hands dirty doing it. And it's kind of interesting to see when you get into the nuances of something, why it is the way it is.
Perspective is different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Well, new information certainly changes it. Yes. You said it in a very quick way. I took the long way.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think it was nice to hear a little bit more detail about it. I mean, new perspectives is it could be about anything. So the opportunity to hear more about it was valuable. So thank you for sharing that.
And what's your celebration?
Oh,
I have a guess.
I have a number of celebrations today.
No, we only get one, Tom. We've talked about this. Save
Okay.
them for the week. You got a whole week. You got 4 days to go through them.
Well, I am celebrating that. I'm celebrating the end of a long couple of weeks, maybe months, and enjoyable all the same. And this last week especially was long. I went from a lacrosse event to another lacrosse event to a presentation, and in each of those things, it was long and challenging and tiring, and it was also exhilarating, enjoyable, and lots of fun. And so I think, I think that's one of the things sometimes we don't realize is the things that we do that we really enjoy actually they wear on us a little bit. Even as much fun as we have while we're doing it, that it's still, there is a definite need to relax from all of that. And I think I'll be finding some time this afternoon that how I will celebrate is by taking some time this afternoon to just relax, maybe go to the gym and remember and think back on all of the things and I still have to do my what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what would I do differently about the presentations that I did yesterday. So that'll be one of the things I will ensure that I do. But I'm celebrating the completion of a number of things that I think went well.
Good. That's great. So we're talking about managing a team. Oh boy. There are people going, no, not that. And I think it's a great topic. We've been talking about building a team, developing a team, independence, dependence. And this really, to me, is the next logical thing. And so, Tom, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
No, I can start. And I just would say,
we're talking about challenges today, even though it's Tuesday. Normally it would be Monday or it would be Thursday, but today it's Tuesday. We're going to go at challenges.
Fair enough. And as we have our conversation, if you have any thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to add them to the comments, whether you are watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
Yeah, it's LinkedIn Live. We welcome your thoughts and idea. We know it'll add value to our show. And at the end of the show, end of our discussion, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote, that we hope will help you take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So I want to make sure we got that in there just in case people thought, well, maybe now we weren't allowing comments. We skipped a day. Now we're not allowing comments. We don't want
anarchy, I tell you. Cats and dogs living together. What's that from? Ghostbusters, right?
I have no idea.
I think it's Ghostbusters.
Okay.
I think Bill Murray says it when they're talking about the chaos of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think, it's interesting. I think so many people ultimately want to lead, manage a team, be a boss, be at the top of the food chain. And I think they're so excited to get there, they often don't think about the challenges that might come along with it. And, I think like with anything else that we are excited about doing, we forget that with every great opportunity, there are always challenges. And in leading a team is no different. I was talking with somebody yesterday at this event. This presentations that I were doing were to chamber and association leaders, people who are running teams, a part of teams. And I was talking with the guy after my presentation, because one of my presentations was about hiring, firing, and everything in between. And, he was just asking me about how much time to allocate to be a leader. Because he was a brand new leader with a couple of people on his team, and he was trying to figure that out. And so we talked a little bit about it. And I think
it's a great question.
Interesting. What's that?
It's a great question.
It is a great question. And, it was great that he was thinking about it. And I asked him, have you ever led before? And he said, no. I said, that's one of the big challenges, that if you've never led a team before, there are things that you can't expect that are going to come up. And I think many times when we think about leading a team, we think, oh, I'm leading the team as one entity. And in reality, you're leading the team and you are leading each individual on the team.
And yourself.
Well, and yourself as well. Yes. And I mentioned that to him,
right?
I said, as you think about how much time you have to spend managing your team, you also have to think about what does that mean for the things that you have to get done? And how does that, play into how much time you have to manage them? So I think that, understanding that the team is made up of many parts and that the parts all need some attention and likely need it in different ways, that is something you don't imagine. And that can become a challenge, especially if you're not prepared for that and you try to lead them all the same way.
I think that's a very common challenge that you find that, leading people. I certainly fell into it where I tried to lead people the first time I was a leader. I tried to lead them all like I wanted to be led,
Mm-hmm.
which, the Bob School of Management wasn't really good at that time. Learned a lot. Um, the other thing I would say, a challenge is often people think that they can put that leadership time, like I'm going to spend 15 minutes in the morning checking in, and then I don't have to be a leader anymore. I can do my job. And I think that can be a recipe for disaster because I think leading's all day. If you said to me, how many hours of day am I leading? I'm leading every hour because people are looking for a model on how to behave. They're looking for how to interact with customers or clients or donors. And your weakest moment as a leader is often the one that everyone sees. It's one of the paradoxes, just like as a speaker, when you're speaking, your worst sentence is like everyone remembers that sentence. You're like, I had so many great sentences, and you remember that one really bad one. And I think that can really be a problem. The other thing that I see often, and I've had this too, is I've overmanaged and been in people's faces when I should have backed off and given them more space, given them the opportunity to grow into something. And that's certainly a challenge. And one more that comes to mind also is expecting people to do it the way you would do it. So
Yes.
if you ask them for the outcome, if you say, hey, Tom, I want you to move these piles of wood from here to there. I don't care if you use a wheelbarrow. I don't care if you put it in the back of your truck. I don't care if you get someone else to do it. All I want is it needs to be done by 5 o'clock today. Go. A lot of people when they're first into management would be like, okay, you should stack the wood horizontally, no more than 6 piles together. And they micromanage it, and it sucks the life out of the opportunity because ultimately we want agency. Even if you're just the baseline worker, you want to feel like you own what you're doing. And I think
Sure.
that tends to be a really big challenge for new managers. And then the last one I'll give you is sort of that clipboard mentality that, when I was in school, no one ever let me lead. So now I'm the leader, and here's my clipboard, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. I would say it's the PTA mother syndrome because I've seen it many times where, yeah, I've now pissed off every PTA mother. But
Yes. Thanks.
they never got to lead, or they've always been frustrated by the leadership, and suddenly it's their year to be the leader, and they go in and just there's no discussion. It's a dictatorship. And that can be, as a leader, I think a dictatorship is probably in this day and age, especially dealing with millennials and Gen Z, really problematic.
Well, I think it's also problematic because how do they learn if we just dictate? I was
Right.
thinking about, I remember a situation where I someone was writing a letter, a member of my team, and then came to me and I just edited it. Basically, I was telling them what to do and handed it back with a bunch of changes. And they came into my room, in my office, and just was like, "Can we talk about this?" I'm like, "Sure." And they said that, I don't feel like I'm understanding why this is the way it is. You're just telling me how to do it. And, kind of like in your example, if they said, well, how would you do it? You'd say, oh, I would do this, 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 and this. And then they go try, and that's not the most effective way for them to do it. And they're not really learning of what are the skills that they have and problem solving this situation to then be able to move it forward. And I think as a leader, it can be very easy to tell people what to do or how, and not what to do, how to do it. Because we tell them what to do. We share this is what needs to be done. And then we sometimes tell them how to do it. And the way how to do it is the way we would do it, which isn't necessarily the most effective way for them to do it. I'm pretty sure I've told this story that we had a team and we were trying to learn a new software. And so we sat down once a week in our conference room, or I don't know, maybe a couple days in a row. And we had it up on the screen and at the same time talking through what we were doing. 4 of the 5 people really got it simply. One person couldn't figure it out, and I was getting a little frustrated that why they were struggling, because they kept coming to my office and asking me questions about it. So one time I went down there to see, or they actually called and asked if I could come down because they were working on something and could I help them with it. And what I noticed was they had the screen up and they had handwritten notes because we had put together some notes on the side. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And they said, "Yeah, I just learned by reading." And I was like, I forgot that others have learning styles that are different than everyone else's, and that you need to take that into account and not just assume that they aren't a strong employee because they can't figure it out. It's maybe we haven't put them in a space to help them be successful.
Or giving them the tools.
Or giving them the tools, correct.
Yeah, because you have the visual learners, you have the auditory learners, and then you have the hands-on people. And we all have all 3, but we have a predominant one. And if I tell you how to do it, but you're a hands-on person, it's not going to work as well.
Right. And that's what we were doing. We were telling everyone how to do it, not allowing them to read as well as how to do it. Which is, so it's, I think it's an interesting
and also
challenge.
figure it out, right? I mean, part of it, I've found at times that I get frustrated because it's taking people time to figure stuff out. And it's like, let me just shorten the curve.
Or we do it for them. I had somebody that I was talking with yesterday who we were talking about that exact situation is, they were frustrated because someone wasn't doing some things. And so they ended up doing them for them as the leader. And so I just asked them, like, okay, what impact is that having on your work?
Right.
I said,
and your organization, because you're not cultivating talent that's going to be able to take over one day, right?
Correct.
And you see this with organizations all the time. The leader dictates everything, and then that leader leaves, and the organization is completely ill-equipped to go forward because, like, well, we lost the person who has all the information.
Yeah. The other thing is interesting. There was another, it's funny how this topic shows up today after that. And in some regards, I'm glad we're doing it today, not yesterday morning, because I'm not sure I would have had some of these examples. Someone else came up to me and said, I have this great employee that we really love, and they're doing really well and always keep getting great reviews. And yet I don't have a way to reward them monetarily. And I said, I understand. So they said, do you have any suggestions of how to, keep them moving forward, or to reward them? Basically, really was the question, was to reward them. And I said, well, the challenge is if you can't control it and there is not money to make it available, it's hard because people are going to see that. I said, one of the ways you could do it is to give them more responsibility and give them things that might help them somewhere else. Things that aren't really a part of their job description, and yet they're doing that and they have time to do other things. I said, we'll give them some other opportunities that will help them expand. And I said, ultimately, they may just have the thing for them may be to leave. And as a leader, I think it's a challenge when we have really good people who just don't have the opportunity for monetary advancement or positional advancement, that they need to go, and that is part to because they are ready to move forward to the next step, and we don't have that opportunity. And I think as a leader, we forget that part of our role is to help them grow, and that the challenge with that is they grow, they get really effective at what they do, and they're looking for other challenges, and so they leave. And I think that that's one of those things that can be really hard for a leader to then be happy that they are going. This person told me that it was interesting that they were in the exact same situation, only as the employee that was doing really well, and they decided to leave. And they said their manager at the time was so frustrated by it, they didn't talk to them for 2 years. And I was like,
that's an interesting leadership style.
Correct. It's a leadership style about them.
Yeah.
Not the leader, not about who am I leading and how do I lead them to what's next for them. So I think that was just an interesting conversations.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
You
Bob,
had a
what's your one thing?
I think my one thing is what you were talking about regarding the uh, giving people the how part. That there's a lot of discussion that needs to be done over the how, or we have to let people do their own how. Here's what I need you to accomplish by the end of next week. I need you to call these 52 people. If you want to call all 52 and you get them all on the phone today, knock yourself out. If you want to call 5 a day for 10 days, okay, whatever works for you. And I think it's freeing for a leader to be able to say, the person I'm working with understands the outcome. We're working together towards that outcome. The other thing I would say with regards to that is you have to get their buy-in. If the person doesn't think they can make 52 call lists in 10 days, they're thinking more like 10, you're going to have a problem sooner or later. Or
Sure.
if you say 52 and they go, well, 52, I could nail 52 today. How about 520? I'd rather have that discussion up front, because so often I see leaders dictating what the results should be based on their specifications. And often I've found that employees I work with in those situations are much more motivated to achieve more.
Sure. Well, I think the other thing too about it is that it lends to trust.
Yes.
That if
Yes.
you say, I need you to do this by next week, that not micromanaging and them to be, well, they only made 5 today. You're like, well, and they might have a perfectly legitimate reason why 5 was the number they could get to today.
Right.
And they were
Right.
planning to do 10 the next day and 12 the next day. It's just that they were managing based on their time and not on your expectations. And I
Right.
think that the willingness to give them a task and trust them to do it in the way that they are most effective, that is a big challenge, I think, for leaders.
Mm-hmm. What's your one thing?
So my one thing actually, again, came up yesterday, which is fascinating. And it wasn't something I've thought about it a little bit, but haven't thought about it in a while. And, oftentimes leaders will say, do as I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, we were talking about overworking and not having boundaries as a leader. And I clearly remember when I was in one of my roles, and my situation was unique because my family was still up in Binghamton. And I would get to the office at 8, and I would go out and grab some dinner and then likely stay at the office and work until 11 or 12 almost every night. And so I would regularly be sending emails to my team. And I would always tell them in meetings, I say, look, this is just when I'm doing it. You are not to respond. I'm not expecting you to respond when you get in the next morning to do it. And, I always thought that was enough. And then I started thinking, and we talked about it yesterday, is that part of the challenge of a leader is you're also modeling by example. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I shared with him yesterday as I started thinking about that situation, because we were talking about it, is that they might be thinking, your team might be thinking, well, okay, if this is what the leader is supposed to do I really want to do that? Or am I expected to do that? Just because I was saying to them, you don't have to respond. In some ways that's saying, well, that's because you're an assistant
Inferior.
director. Correct. You're a member of the team. You're not
I
leading the
kind of
team.
want you to do it, but I'm not going to tell you because I'm not allowed to, because you worked your 40 hours.
Yeah. And I really don't want you to at that point.
Right.
And all I was doing was setting the example that as a leader, that is you are expected to do those things. And all you need to do is tell your team not to do them. And then that seems like that's okay. You're telling me, well,
Right.
this is just me. And all I'm doing is I'm setting a horrible example of how a leader should act. And I think that's one of the challenges, is that it gets hard to remember that what we do and how our team sees it says an awful lot about who we are as a leader. I mean, I was reminded of it as well because, on the lacrosse field, the coach is the leader. And when players, say, well, I don't want you to yell at the refs, or I don't want you to get angry about calls or something, and then they turn around and do it, They're kind of like, oh, okay, well, we can't do it as a player, but as soon as I get to be a coach, that's the role the coach plays. And I think that we forget so often that as a leader, we are also a role model, and people are watching what we are doing. And then they will copy that once they enter that position.
Wow. We covered a lot of ground today.
A lot of ground today, which was good. If you have one thing you'd like to share, your today's antidote, please feel free to
you do.
What's that?
We know they have a one thing.
Okay. We know that?
We know that. I know that with great certainty.
Okay. Bob knows that with great certainty. You all have one thing that you'd like to share around this topic. I would imagine there are some that are still like, I hadn't thought of that. So they might have to consider that a little bit. Please feel free to share. That could be
their one thing.
I'm sorry?
Right? Their one thing could be, I'm considering it.
Fair point. So please feel free to share it in the comments. If you are listening to our podcast, you can always go to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share it there, because we know I have a lot of people there who are renegades who are trying to follow their own unique pathway to success, and sometimes they get stuck and can't
almost
figure
1,200.
Yes, and can't figure out their next step. And the thought that you share, the one thing that you share, might be the thing that helps them figure out that next step along their own unique pathway. So we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and celebrate something. Take a minute today and celebrate something you did, something you tried that you never have tried before, or just something you do every day, and just celebrate the fact that you do it really well.
I like that. All right, everyone, go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.